in the skies above Uganda, where the endless horizons meet the clouds, one name echoes through the conflict: Flight Captain Gerald Okweyo. He's a seasoned aviator with over 4 decades of experience. Captain Okweyo has navigated the skies through every storm, every down, and every challenge that the world of aviation throws his way. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be speaking directly from the heart of Uganda, where Gerald Okweyo stands as a symbol of leadership, precision, and unwavering courage. He's not just a pilot, he's a beacon of hope for the skies of East Africa, a leader whose dedication to safety, professionalism, and excellence has inspired a generation of pilots. And like we did promise right here at the Aviation Blueprint, that we shall be speaking to the names, to the big shots in the industry. For if we do not know where we have come from, it will be very difficult for us to tell where we are headed. Olivia Nakalembe is my name, and welcome to the Aviation Blueprint. Let's speak to the man himself, Captain Gerald Okweyo. Captain, thank you so much for sparing time to sit with us amidst your busy schedule. We welcome you to the Aviation Blueprint.
Thank you very much.
Please talk to our viewers today.
Thank you very much for this occasion. I would like to thank the Aviation Mbawa Aviation Fellowship for inviting me to this day, and I'll try my best to share as much information as I can.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
And that is the gist of this particular conversation, because we aim to close the information gap in Uganda's aviation sector. So, Captain, give us a brief background about yourself, where you come from, where you went to school, up until where we are today.
First of all, I was born in a district called as Busia district now. And I was born in 1948. My primary education started in Buhehe Primary School. I went to that time with Busia Junior Secondary School, then proceeded to Barara High School for my A levels. And then after the Barara School, I went for St. Peter's College, Tororo, which is also known as Tro College, my A levels. My parents, my father was an ex-Second World War veteran, where he served for 6 years in various countries. When he came from the war, he had 10 golden stars. Each star represented the country where he fought. The major one was in Burma, the present in Myanmar, where he fought until the end of the war in 1945. My mother was a young girl from Kenya side of the. She never went to school really, but I was the firstborn in a family of 5. So when my father came from the war, returned from the war, at that time the veterans were very popular. So we were looking for this young somebody to marry, and and this young girl happened to be around, so they met, and now But she managed to look after us,
Okay.
the five, particularly me. My father wasn't very much into education. He only came and picked up when I joined the senior one,
Okay.
when he became very useful inside of education.
Okay.
And briefly, that's what I would say about my parents. My mom was very loving, my father was also loving, and the grace of God, here I am.
From what I picked about your education history, your dad might not necessarily have been into education up until you became a very promising student. So how then do you get into the field of aviation? Was it sound? Was it a sound thing by then? What was the situation like at the time?
As young men, we used to sit outside in a group and observe. Well, we saw these airplanes flying on top,
Okay.
from west to east, and with the forming, of course, what we thought was a smoke. But actually, what we learned eventually, it was a contrail. Contrail is a cloud formed after condensation, so they call it condensation trail. It's actually a cloud. And we thought, they told us that was one of the airplanes belonging to the Queen of England. And started admiring what it looks like to be up in the sky. And but we had a student, one of my young men who was ahead of me in class. He, for some reason, he couldn't go for A levels, where he's supposed to be to go to. That was in Tare. And when he came in school, when we were in senior 4, and he told us he's going to join the fly airplanes. I said, wow, how did he manage to do that? He came driving his father's vehicle. I remember green Anglia. At that time, it was one in the model in the vehicles at the time. And he started boasting about going to fly an aeroplane. So it kind of inspired me, although I never took it seriously. But from Mbawa High School, of course, I went to, as I mentioned, to St. Peter's College in Tororo to pursue my A levels.
Sure.
And the initial career which I wanted was to be a medical doctor. And
just like many of us.
So again, the fate wasn't very nice. I didn't manage the time properly in my practicals, and I didn't do well.
Okay.
I didn't do well enough to qualify for university.
Okay.
So I ended up in banking instead.
Wow.
So I joined the bank at around 1970. I started earning some living on my own. And in that process, I was able to be abreast by buying. At that time, we were just buying newspapers. So eventually, there was an advert in Uganda Argus, a paper at that time, and I saw a smaller caption advertising for pilots. Then I recalled what the other colleague of ours said when we were in Barara, joining the aviation side. I said, why can't I also try this? He kind of inspired me. I put an application and they called for interview in Kampala, briefly. That's how I was inspired to join aviation.
Okay, so can you briefly walk us into now how you joined the East African Civil Aviation Academy, the now flying school in Soroti?
Well, that is more or less how I joined, because when I did the interview we did in Kampala, we did an aptitude test in Kampala. Of course, I resigned straight away from the bank.
Okay.
I didn't know whether probably we first I resigned, but we were shortlisted to go for further training, for interviews in Nairobi. In Nairobi, we learned that we actually being this government, which is they were after training, we were going to go to join this of Canada. So,
Captain, if I may just cut you short right there.
yeah.
One would argue that, maybe the interviews in the bank would definitely be harder. Sorry, would actually be easier than those, done when in your quest to become a pilot. So if you could just walk us through, what were the interviews like?
In Kampala, the interviews in Kampala were just purely aptitudes, aptitude tests. And I think there were very many applicants at that time, but they couldn't tell how many people applied. Because after the application, the aptitudes were shortlisted for people to continue interviews in Kenya.
What are some of the questions they asked?
It was merely aptitudes. You know what the aptitude test is, either following a diagram and whatever. Nothing oral. When we went to Kenya, we did now more intensive training, with more aptitude tests with the Kenya Air Force. We were subjected to medicals, physical medicals, to pass the physical medicals. And we went through more aptitude tests. They gave us elementary handling of the aircraft. And again, they were shortlisted. What I recall is the people who I could only know the number of Ugandans who attended the interview at that time. There were just 10 people. Some dropped off on their own accord, some could not make it. Eventually, we learned that they only wanted 6 Ugandans at the time. So 6 of us, 6 Ugandans out of the 10, went through to join the flying school. We were joined by some counterparts from Kenya, who were 7, Tanzanians were 7, we remained a number of 20. But the most important thing, that the interview was very intense.
It was very intense.
Exactly. I came to discover later that the actual number of people who applied to join in Uganda alone were actually 3,000.
3,000?
3,000.
They were shortlisted.
So when it was not a very wise idea to resign from the bank. It wasn't a very wise idea to resign from the bank so early. But we end up we shorted 6 people and commenced training the flying school. We happened to be the pioneers of the flying school.
The pioneers of
the flying school, yes.
Captain, walk me through some of the experiences you had at the flying school. Some of also the challenges that you went through at the flying school and how you overcame them. Is there a particular scenario that you remember?
You can imagine the biggest scenario is that experience one feels. You have come from the village, deep in the village.
In Busia? Okay.
In Busia to rural Busia, and then you end up here you are in an aeroplane. So the first thing is the first few hours of flying, really. Although the instructor was there to give us instructions, the first thing I was more worried about was how will I feel when I actually left the ground. So instead of following what the instructor was telling me, I was actually when I was looking through the window to see whether we were actually airborne or not.
I'm so sorry.
Now in the flying school, everything was properly arranged, except the only challenges we had were initially on the side of catering, which was eventually ironed out, And thereafter, everything ran normally.
So the food, the other side, was not the best.
Although the course number one, the Pioneer course, was designed to last only about 6 months in the flying school. Okay. And then to complete the training in Perth in UK. So we spent 6 months really in the first months in UK. And in Sarawak, and then thereafter we went to UK.
Okay. Are there any names that you remember, for some of the students that you went with to the flying school?
I remember all of them.
Okay. Did you practice with
but
them?
The most important ones, I think I've mentioned those who matter. Okay. The Ugandans, the 6 Ugandans who went to flying school. Other than me, we had Captain Tamale, Paul Tamale, whom we flew with until we achieved retirement. Wow. Captain Bera, area Bera, who lives in Entebbe here. Okay. He's a golfer. Wow. Captain Kajamiti, that's right, Islam. And 2 other guys. One was a Mgishu guy known as Watua, and late Captain Alele. Okay. The fate of Alele was a sad one because he was killed during Amin's time. He was enjoying the Air Force. Captain Watua, but also he joined the Air Force. Right now, I don't know where he is, but I think he's still alive. So out of the 6 pilots who from Uganda, 5 are alive today. The other pilot is, whom I would like to mention, is Captain Mulai. He's still alive. He's a Tanzanian, stroke Ugandan. Okay. He ended up as the chief flying instructor in Saroti. Up now, he's still in Saroti. The other one is there are some Kenyans. Captain Diriani, he runs a flying school in Wilson Airport. The others were Tanzanians. Some of them perished. But most important, most of the pilots who were the pioneer pilots from Uganda, the majority are alive today. Okay. Thank
you so much, Captain. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still hanging around and tapping into the history, wisdom, and expertise of Captain Okweyo right here. It's been a beautiful, amazing journey. I kind of feel like I was present at the time with the pioneers of, the Sorority Flying School, what we actually currently know as this particular generation. Captain, you were still telling us when you flew from Uganda to the UK shortly after completing the 6 months at the Sorority Flying School. What was the experience then like?
The experience, we came into UK. Most of the time we were flying when we were in Soroti. The weather in Soroti in Uganda was pretty good. When we went to UK, of course, the first night we got there, I think, on a weekend, and we were located. That is, we were located to some accommodation. Everybody had his own cubicle, just like we had in Soroti. And the thing which amazed us, really, me in particular, is in the morning I woke up and this lady, a white lady, coming to my room. I said, "What the hell are you looking for here?" So I'm a housekeeper. I said, "Pastor, to do what?" Okay. And he said, "We're here to clean your room." Wow. So I said, no, this is not correct. Back home is supposed to be the other way around. Cleaning for but the actually housekeepers, so all I had to do is wake up in the morning, go and for breakfast, or go and do some flying, and when you come back, all your bed has been made, The room has been cleaned, and our clothes washed and ironed. It was a very big change from what
You were like a
how it was. I was brought up in Uganda. And also now, when it came to weather-wise, the weather is, because we got there towards the winter period, and the weather was not very interesting. We get low clouds and things like that.
Okay.
So that was a big change from the actual weather in Uganda back home.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Captain, what were the tests like, the examinations like, the tests, for example, like you did this side, both at the time when you were shortlisted for the very first time, when you went to the sorority flying school? What was the experience like in terms of the lessons that you received in the UK?
The 6 months we stayed in flying school in sorority, we were brought up. It was a rapid and intensive training, which lasted about 6 months.
Yes.
By the time we got in UK, it had really, they had set us in the tune of learning, and we had covered most of the subjects. Wow. Actually, to a level of CPL. So when we got in the UK, we felt we were just doing some kind of revision. Okay. We tended to be relaxed until we got a very big warning from the school. If we didn't concentrate on the ground, the studying, they may have to make some of us do a recourse.
Okay.
But after that kind of warning, we took it lightly initially, but eventually, when we concentrated, all of us excelled.
Captain, was it still the 6 of you?
No, we went to always. We started off with a group of 20 in sorority, but I think when we went back to UK, only 17 went. Only 17. The 4 Ugandans and 7 Tanzanians and 6 Kenyans. So we, out of the 17, of course, after the warning, a few were recourses. The group was too big for the flying school in UK. Air service, that is in Perth. So the kind of recoursing was to try to stagger a little bit because the group was too big. And they hoped that one time when you come to the end, we were going to fail. But the course was so, the way we had been groomed in flying school was so good. And we all went through. The majority went through first course. Now, all this we gave gratitude to the instructors in the flying school who gave us the foundation. And I would like to mention one particular name, really.
Sure thing.
And that name was Mzee Muge. He was a meteorologist, and he did a lot of training. He walked us through the training, meteorological training, so well. But by the time we got in the flying in the path, we were ready for actually up to CPL level. Okay. Of course, there were other ground schools, some instructors. The Amuge was the only one of the few blacks who were in the flying school at that time. The rest were whites from UK. Wow. So, my gratitude and appreciation goes to Little Muge. Yeah.
So, Captain, what happened after you had completed the course in the UK? Were you now ready to take on a job? Because I also do understand you work with the East African Airways, which experience would definitely love you to share. But then what happened after, you going to school in the UK?
After UK, the training in UK, we were absorbed in bits. The first person who came who committed in the minimum hours was Captain Milai, who came and joined flying school as an instructor. two of us, me and Captain and Pius Kabucho, Kenyan, we came and were absorbed straight away into East African Airways as first officers.
In terms of like the hands-on experience, was it any different from the experience you had back in the UK? And in case it was, what are some of these things?
Of course, it was different in that the biggest airplane we flew out during the training was a Cessna 310. This is a small twin-engine turboprop. Thereafter, when you join East African Airways, the smallest airplane was the DC-3. The DC-3 had a different handling characteristic on the ground because it sits like a toad. It sits like a toad, and the aerodynamics, the handling characteristics on the ground are totally different than from the conventional nose-wheel aeroplane. When I say tail wheel, it sits like a toad, the tail is behind. In when we joined the East African Airways, of course, we started off with a small aeroplane. The system at that time was that you join as a new pilot, you join on a small aeroplane and work your way up. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, we were proud to join the EAA because it was a national carrier at the time for the 3 states. And I was proud that we was part of the team, particularly like the indigenous Africans to be on a national carrier.
Captain, let me just take you back home. When your parents received the news, Captain Okweyo has passed highly, he's, part of this pioneer group. They've come back from the UK. What was it like? What reactions did you get from your parents, your relatives, your siblings? And then now you were flying with...
I didn't meet my parents actually. Because when I came from Perth, we went straight to Nairobi and joined the East African Airways.
Wow.
It was some time that after about 3 months, when I took a couple of days off, a weekend, came and told them. They were excited to see me. But they didn't know anything about aviation. It's only my father who knew about aviation because during the war.
Yes, they would
used to use the DC-3s to fly, to transport them to places where they fought during the war.
Okay.
And my mom, she didn't have any idea whatsoever. Wow. She was only excited to see me back.
Wow. Just like many mothers are. So, Captain, did you experience any challenges when you joined the East African Airways? I understand many of your instructors were whites. We only had a few blacks here and there. So along those lines, are there any challenges you experienced, from your other counterparts?
The challenges we initially had is we had just finished training in the Perth where we were being talked to, groomed when it came to type rating of aircraft, we were being groomed to it. They gave us ample time. But when we joined the South African Airways, we were called from the personnel department. We have been absorbed into South African Airways. We were told to go and report to our immediate boss, who was director of flight operations. At that time, they were calling him manager of flight operations, who happened to be Mzungu, a white man. I remember his name very well, Captain Trevor Hill Sr. He was a senior man. When there were 2 of us, me and Captain Kabucho, we met the guy, and of course he welcomed us normal welcome, and he directed us to go to the library where they were going to give us manuals, and he directed us where to get the uniform. The manuals were mainly for the DC-3 aircraft. And he told us that after 7 days, we must take him take the results, a pass slip from Civil Aviation Authority to him. Say, good heavens, no instructions whatsoever. So we came out, and thank God, after 5 days, we sat for the exam, the DC3 type rating, and we passed.
Wow.
And we put, on the next week, we passed the pass slip to him. But the challenge was no instruction whatsoever on the aircraft type. But that was a challenge. The other challenge was that eventually, when we joined EAA at the time, there was not giving transport to pilots. Mbakasi Airport was 20 kilometers away from the main city. And so to get into the airport, early morning, particularly if it's early morning, you have to find your own means as a pilot. The company crew are given transport, but the pilots were not given any more form of transport.
How was that?
So,
how did that work out?
That
I
was
thought pilots.
Now, when we were joining as a young man, no transport, so we were forced to make our own arrangements. Now, in my case, I had to use the taxi man who used to take us to the airport and give him a schedule. He would drive us to the airport. Particularly early morning, we would come on time to collect us at time. We would get a report in the morning. If it was in the morning, at whatever time they wanted us to report at the airport, we were there in time. This went on until I was able to acquire a small vehicle for myself.
We're going to be taking a very, very short commercial break. And when we return, Captain will be taking us through from where he sits, what the situation was like in the golden era vis-a-vis the downfall, of Uganda's aviation sector. Do stay right here with us at the Aviation Blueprint and Bolivian. Captain, I understand you do have some memorable moments from the training to the East African Airways, which we would call your first job up until today. But if I could just take you back a bit, you were sharing about that one memorable flight. Aside from you just looking down and seeing the plane, going into the clouds, that that memorable moment that you had in terms of the flights while you were in training.
Yeah, thank you very much. I had missed out that one because that memorable flight came in the other mission. The the flying school was being more heavily monitored on a daily basis from Arusha, which was the headquarters of the performance, how it was progressing. And there was an inspector from one of the director of the director in the East African director of aviation in the East African community based in Arusha, who came in and they wanted to be flown by one of the students.
Okay.
And I was
not of the pilots, of the students.
The students. So in the view of the instructor at the time, the Muzungus, I was selected to fly that director. I can't recall the name, but he was a very senior guy from Arusha. If I recall, it could have been something Kalimuzo, but I'm not so sure I recall the name.
Okay.
And I was selected to fly him from Soroti to Entebbe solo on a Cessna 172. I flew to Entebbe, collected him, took him to flying school to inspect the school, and then I flew him back to Entebbe. I remember that quite well. It had a lot of impact on my performance.
Wow. What made the East African Airways quite a special one at the time? What made it prestigious? What are some of those elements you'd speak to that?
East African Airways, in my opinion, was unique because it involved 3 states, the 3 governments coming together to form a national, to form a flag carrier. And it made us feel proud, in my opinion. It shows it shows a lot what can be achieved if countries work together. The Ugandans, in my opinion, we felt proud, and particularly with the guys who were ahead of us. We were very, very proud of joining the group which was ahead of us. Of course, that included some of the captains who, if you don't mind, I may have to mention.
It's okay, no worries.
We had people like Captain Kiwanuka, who was ahead of us, and Captain Roy, Captain Newman, and a number of other pilots ahead of us. So to us who are joining, we felt very proud of that group. We are very happy to join the same group.
Oh.
Yeah. In the Southern Airways, the connectivity was very good at the time. Of course, mainly it was serving, we had international flights at the time, and they were mainly to, as I mentioned earlier, to help to improve the tourism industry, and also had internal flights, what we call domestic flights. Okay. When I say domestic flights, it means flights within East Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya.
Oh, okay.
And it helped a lot in flying into various airports within Uganda and within Tanzania.
In terms of the human resource, outside your area of expertise, like say, people checking us in the airport, what was it like? How many, say for example, in terms of the numbers, the intake, the quality, if you were to, for example, compare it with?
I will limit myself on the quality of in aviation, in the technical staff, particularly the pilots. Okay. At the time of this stuff, and it's still going on up today, the quality of flying crew who are taken on merit. There are no shortcuts. You join on merit. There's no back door. Nobody's going to help you perform. So your quality, you're recruited into aviation on merit. The other bit which impressed us a lot, and I think most airlines do the same, is the on-time performance. On-time performance is imperative, is important, but when you present your schedule, you're going to operate from a point A to B at a certain time, here is emphasize a lot on timekeeping, which most airlines, all airlines, endeavor to do up to today. Now, in the case of East African Airways, we're only given a maximum of 3 minutes delay. Only if you're late by 3 minutes, the captain had to give a report why there was a delay. 3 minutes is quite good.
That was stringent.
Strictly. And it was reflected on our pay slip. Every mile, we had a slogan on the pay slip, which said, "Ticket is a contract." We didn't know what they meant by ticket was a contract. Actually, what they meant that you are being paid to keep time. Oh. So when you have to report on duty, you have to report on time. When you have to depart, you have to report on time. Try as much as possible to maintain the schedule. Wow. 3 minutes was the maximum we are given.
Let's now get into one of the saddest moments, of course, for Uganda's aviation sector, and it was the collapse of the East African Airways in around 1977 thereby. What led to the collapse of the East African Airways, Captain?
as I may have mentioned earlier, the airline was started under the agreements of the three states, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And we had that political understanding. Now, in the problems of East African community at the time, vis-a-vis the East African Airways, started by the coming in of Idi Amin. And we had political differences at that time. So we had to go through that problem. And we reached a stage, it climaxed in 1976, really, where the Ugandan crew, captains at the time in particular, were not allowed to fly out of Nairobi to be in command of an aeroplane outside on international flights. This, of course, affected the captains, Ugandan captains at the time. And we thought this thing would be resolved. You can imagine senior captains. We had Captain Kiwanuka, we had Captain Roy, Captain Newman, and they were not allowed to fly to be captains outside Kenyan airspace.